Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
And that's why I feel like gin and juice should be a part of every balanced breakfast.
What? Jesus.
You mean like actual gin, or are you talking about the song by Snoop Dogg?
Both.
At the same time?
Yeah, why not?
Just overlap.
They're called Snooki Crisp.
Just laid back, got my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Okay. Well,
Oh, man.
well, there's that. Hunter, you okay over there?
I'll be all right.
Guys, welcome to the Beacon House Podcast. I'm Spence.
I'm Casey.
I'm Hunter.
Yeah, that's Hunter over there. Guys, here we go. This is October. We talked about it. We're approaching the month of Halloween, and we're going to start out. We're going into this with a bang. We have got a very, very special guest today, Mr. J-Adam Smith, the paranormal historian, an expert in the field. He's in charge of Knox Ghost Tours. And, man, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to our audience.
Oh, man, where do I start? For those of you who watch the ghost hunting shows, you may have seen me on Travel Channel's Paranormal Paparazzi a few years ago. About ready to be in a new smashing movie coming out in 2019. We'll probably talk about that today. I started basically America's first investigation-based ghost tour right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I am a trailblazer for basically bringing Knoxville to the forefront. And really what kind of stuck it out was Ghost Hunters magazine actually did a 4-page feature in one of their magazines deeming us the hidden gem of haunted America.
That's so
Nice.
awesome.
Nice.
That's so awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing is this. I mean, think about what it took for me to get to where I am. Here I am, like, okay, I have this crazy idea. I'm going to bring my love of history and my experience with paranormal investigation, and I'm going to walk around downtown Knoxville with tools that light up, searching for ghosts. Can you even guess what people were like? You're doing what?
I think that's incredible.
And then the next thing is, ghosts don't exist.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's my favorite.
Oh, that's a great
yeah.
one. Oh, yeah, I love it. So it's really neat to kind of move from where I started initially to where I am now. Is that now Knoxville is deemed as one of the most haunted cities in America thanks to the work I've done here. We have done hundreds upon hundreds of investigations downtown. We have real evidence that you can actually see on our Facebook page that we're letting our guests actually videotape of things that's happening. So there's a person saying ghosts don't exist. It's like, well, we're not saying they do, but watch this video.
That or tag along with me for a night. And I'll show you that they do.
Yeah. Well, I'll get a little chills going on here with you very, very quickly.
I think that's incredible. Oh, man, I can't wait to get into this. I'm so...
I've told them from the get-go, I've wanted to go somewhere and sit down with this laptop and this thing and record a podcast in a haunted location, and they won't do it.
Well, here's your guy.
Well, I have 2 locations that only I can investigate. I got partners that even before Ghost Hunters, the Taps, and Ghost Adventures and all those shows and stuff, none of them have even been able to get here. And if they did want to get to those locations, they'd have to go through me.
That's so awesome.
Can you reveal these locations, or are you just
Yes, I
sitting on-
can. Actually, we have 2 special events that we do for the public. One is called the Nightmare on the Tracks, and we have a partnership with the historic Southern Railway Station over in Old City.
Ooh, nice.
They give us full access to the building and the train cars. And, of course, one of the most horrific train accidents in American history actually had connections with that location, which many people don't know.
And, dude, I got to say, like, that's one of the coolest things about what you do. And I did a little bit of research on your background going into this, and it's the historical aspect of it. Like, literally, when you say that you're the paranormal historian, you're not kidding. Like, you really attach it to like events in history and stuff. So there's like a huge foundation to this thing. I think it's so rad. Talk a little bit about that.
I'm not one of these guys that's like walk into a haunted location and go, is there a ghost here? Is there a ghost here? And the truth is, what I find is that I'm really trying to train people to become paranormal historians versus a ghost hunter. Because the truth is, I don't have any rabbit I'm going after. I'm not Elmer Fudd. I'm not trying to actually hunt any ghosts. We're just investigating history, basically. And basically, my goal is to turn people into paranormal historians, and they get to do that. And I've actually had grandparents contact me after a tour. They brought their little grandchild on the tour, and they're like, "Thank you so much." I'm like, "Why are you thanking me?" Well, my granddaughter can now sleep in her bedroom alone now.
There you go. That's awesome.
I get chills whenever I think of that story. It's like I got a Girl Scout thing. We'll have to talk about the Girl Scout thing.
I can't wait to talk about that. You told me about that on the phone. It's so rad. It's so good. So, and you said the historic railway. Where else is the other location?
The other location is brand new. And this is weird because we got pulled to that location, me and my Knox Ghost investigation team, because the business had multiple employees having encounters in the place with something that goes up in the night to a point that they want to figure out what's going on. So they're like, look, we want you to come and check us out. We want you to see what's going on here. And I'm like, we would love to. We've been wanting to go to this location because the location is right where the $1 Million Fire happened in 1897. It's in the ground print of it, which totally makes sense. I'm like, oh man, since I started in 2010, I have been wanting to investigate the $1 Million Fire. I'm like, it's got so much unfinished business to it. So what I did is I decided to research everything I could about the $1 Million Fire. So much so that I pretty much, me and one other gentleman who, I can't remember his name, has basically is the researcher for that. And we pull all our information together. I got everything. And there's so many question marks about that $1 Million Fire. So anyhow, going in there, we investigated, and it was pretty true that we got some activity. The first night we were there, we were using our spirit box, and we asked how many died in the fire. And of course, the original count was 3 to 5. The spirit box answered us at 40.
Yikes!
And give us a little bit for our listeners. What exactly is the spirit box, and how does that work?
It's called the SB7. It's a spirit box. It basically is a radio frequency scanner that has been modified to sweep stations. So it's like, and the goal is not to just listen to it. I mean, I try to stay very, very scientific and very skeptical. And I think everyone who investigates needs to be grounded, can't automatically believe everything is paranormal. So basically with this device, the only way that I can truly gauge that it is paranormal is if I ask a question and I hear a response to my question.
Oh, okay.
And at that point, it can't be the radio. It can't be anything that is that way. So anyhow, we're going through a session, and it was the GM, Ryan, who asked the question, how many people died in the Great Fire? And we heard 40. Now, of course, the funny thing is I love what I do. And when we get responses, I'm very open with my passion. So I was like, holy...
Yeah, and it's you can totally cuss on this podcast.
Oh, I can totally. So
this is an adult podcast.
Oh, it is adult. Okay, yeah. So,
well, except for the fact that we act like children, but I mean.
So of course on the events I have to cut out the holy shit right afterwards.
Right.
But it's like, because here I am, I'm the one doing the research. I'm finding all the information,
and then boom.
and I have this 3 to 5 number that I've always felt was questionable, and I'm hearing a 40 through. The first thing is like, holy, I'm like, no way. I was like, it's been confirmed on this. Now we don't know what exactly. Responded. And it can be a lot of different things. The most important thing is that something that was not human communicated back saying 40. Could they be lying to us? Maybe. There's no way of really knowing. All I know is it was definitely a response directly afterwards. One of the greatest EVPs we caught was at the railway station, and one of my investigators said out loud, he said, how long have you been here? And the great thing is he gave it time. So it was 26 years. It was as clear as that.
Oh, man.
Great.
Whoa.
And what's weird is talk about giving back. It's like I like to give back. I like to help people and do things like that. And that night I had someone that worked at the station who's like, I really want to go on the tour and stuff. And I'm like, well, it's a paid tour and all this. But I says, how about this? You do me a favor and I'll get you on here. And she's like, what do you want? Record with your phone. If we get evidence, just pull your phone out and record it. That would be a big help for me. And guess who happened to capture the 26 years?
She did? Amazing.
Isn't that amazing? So it's like when you pay it forward, it's so the craziest thing.
Well, and I thought you said a cool thing. I listened to one of your interviews, and you said a cool thing about what people were talking about, like ghosts. Like, what are ghosts? Where do ghosts come from? What is the nature of? What about people who don't believe in ghosts? And you kind of get into this like foundational. And you said something really cool. You said, I feel like this is unfinished business. Mm-hmm. You said, I think that whatever these people are, whatever, it's a matter of unfinished business, and I thought that was kind of neat as far as like I don't know, kind of like an origin story for ghosts.
Well, that's what's interesting about my education. When people work with me, I put them through everything. And it's funny thing I say is, by the way, I got my work tonight. I got 2.5 hours. I got 3 hours to get you guys trained, get you investigating, and get you evidence. And that's basically what my events are. And so I put them through a Ghost Hunting 101. And in the Ghost Hunting 101, it talks about everything to why are we investigating? What exactly is it? And I'll share it with your audience here. It's super awesome. Well, a lot of the phenomenon that we get, for example, like photography, you'll get orbs and things like that. And people are going to automatically think, oh, this orb, it could be dust. And yeah, it could be dust. It could be natural phenomenon, but it could also be paranormal. When you zoom in on some of them, they look almost like energy. And that's the whole basis to paranormal investigation. So it goes to Einstein being one of the few that was behind a theory saying energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So if that's true, we are energy. So if we die, what happens to our energy? Well, through scientific knowledge, that it can't go anywhere. So depending on your belief, you can move on, or if you have unfinished business, you stay here. And the great thing about energy is there's lots of forms of energy. I mean, how many people have said, oh my gosh, my house is haunted, something has moved in my house? What type of energy? Kinetic. There's a cold spot out of nowhere. I don't know where it came from. The AC didn't turn on. Thermal. I mean, it's energy. It's all energy. So guess what? To be a good investigator, I got boxes and boxes of tools that interact with energy in different ways.
Well, and speaking of tools, you told me a really cool thing. You said there's a man,
I want to hear about this.
An engineer you're working with on actually upgrading and designing new tools for paranormal activity and for detecting paranormal things. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I touched base with a designer, Clowers ITC, and you actually see some of his tools being sold on eBay and things like that. And he's an independent designer in New York. So I was interested in his tools because I thought that they're affordable. And I always thought that, we really need to try to make the tools affordable, get it in everyone's hands and all this. So I basically talked to him and wanted to talk to him personally and stuff. And I'm like, you're a cool guy and stuff. I'd love to get to know you. So I started sharing some of my ideas. And he's like, wow, I love that idea. And it got to a point that I kept on sharing these different ideas. And he's like, I can make this. I said, why don't we team up? I says, I could totally see that we could work together, me being a professional in the field, being able to test the stuff, tell you how it works effectively on my side. That's my strength. And his being an electrical engineer that's going for his master's. It's like, wow. So right now, he's learning his 3D printer so that we can print our own custom cases. He's already got multiple boards for different tools already designed. He's learning how to make them smaller and this and that. And then, of course, I went to him. And actually, this one I'm going to have to keep. I want everyone to make sure they listen to your podcast, so I'll make sure you guys are one of the first ones to find out about this. But there's a particular line of tools that have never been done before that we're going to be talking about bringing out in 2019. Literally the first ever of a particular type of tools. And I just don't want to disclose them yet because someone might beat us to the punch if they hear this podcast.
So as opposed to just streamlining old stuff, you're as well innovating tools.
Exactly, tools. So basically the whole idea for the tools is going to be the professional tool for the professional investigator. So basically all the tools that we have is going to be kind of to the next nth degree, higher quality, more distance, and then of course different functionality coming from. It's like me being an investigator, all these investigations I do, it's like, man, I really wish this tool did this. I really wish this tool did this. It's kind of like we're now going to be able to make these tools have these unique special functionality, and also at a very reasonable price too.
Oh, this is exciting. Yeah, you heard it here first. You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are the first.
I want to investigate so bad. I want to do it.
You're talking to the right guy.
This is your
guy right here.
You are in Knoxville, and I'm in Knoxville here, and we have a nationally recognized tour, so you have no excuse. Literally have no excuse.
Oh, through the gauntlet down.
Get out there, Casey. Let's see what you get. Buddy.
Bring it. I'm so excited.
Well, now, and I guess, and again, I don't want to just say okay, tell us all your secrets, because screw that. You guys go sign up for the ghost tour and go on it. Yeah. Okay, you want to know.
But this is what's amazing about Knoxville, is that I can only cover so many stories on my tours. I mean, there's only so many places that we can go. Right now, I got over 40 ground zeros downtown. We can only cover about 3 or 5 on our walking tours. I got a couple different walking tours that you can take. I got the special events and stuff. But there's still a lot of locations that we can disclose. It's not a big deal.
All right.
We actually have 2 of the most haunted locations in the Southeast. here in Knoxville. And it's like, and I love the whole people are like, ghosts don't exist and all this. Knoxville's not haunted. I'm like, you do know that we have 2 that have been on the top 100 odd places. That automatically makes your view wrong on that one.
Can I try to guess them?
Oh, do it.
Is it the Bijou Theater
That is correct.
and Baker Peters?
You were listening into my old past radio.
I've not. I just
nose
really
is
like
flaring.
ghost stuff.
I'll vouch for
So
Casey
as
this time.
the
Yeah,
paranormal historian, I'm going to ask you, why is the Bijou Theater so haunted?
I have no idea.
But you can tell.
I just
he
know
wants
that
to
I've
know.
looked up those lists and I've watched tons of paranormal shows. I used to watch Scariest Places on Earth with Linda Blair on ABC. Like that, just anytime something scary comes on TV, I was like, gotta watch it.
I think that's cool. That's like the history of it. Like you're here to tell, like, okay, here's what happened.
Exactly. So the Bijou Theater, what's special about that particular location is, one, it's one of the oldest buildings in Knoxville, still standing. It started in the early 1800s, like 18 teens area, and it was a hotel. But really where it had its most tragic experience was during the Civil War. It was the headquarters for the Confederacy. Then when the Union occupied Knoxville, it became their headquarters and was turned into their hospital.
There we go.
Yep. And actually one of the biggest battles in Knoxville was called the Battle of Fort Sanders, where William Sanders was shot and killed before the attack by the Confederacy, and basically they named the fort after him. He died on the 4th floor in the Bijou. And what's interesting is he didn't just die on the 4th floor. There's unfinished business connected to his death. They buried him behind the backs of the soldiers and the city by candlelight in a graveyard that is no longer there today.
Not good. That's how you get ghosts. You want ghosts? That's how you get ghosts.
Exactly. So here's what's funny is that William Sanders was a fresh graduate from West Point, young and all this. His job was to check on all the lines. After his death, he got raised to the position of general. Could it have been that they raised his ranking because they were afraid that his spirit would come back and haunt them?
Wow.
So do not call him Colonel Sanders.
Wow.
General Sanders.
And then Baker Peters. What about that one?
Baker Peters is interesting. I'm one of only a few different investigation teams that investigated there. I had probably one of the most significant experiences in there while investigating. I did a pretty thorough job with that. But down in the basement was where Dr. Baker's medical office was. And on investigation, I actually got touched on my shoulder.
Whoa.
So I'm really cool as a cat on investigations unless you're in the dark and something actually touches you.
Yeah.
So
Not sure how to handle that.
it did make me yipe a little bit, but then afterwards I was just like, it's okay, you just surprised me, and that's how I investigate. But when you're in the dark and something touches you, it's just going to happen that way.
Oh, yeah.
But the story behind Baker Peters is that Dr. Baker was kind of like a little House on the Prairie's Doc Baker, a little West Knoxville doctor, and then of course during the Civil War, neighbors became feuding with neighbors because some were Confederate, some were Union, and all this. And unfortunately, Dr. Baker was aligned with the Confederacy. So when Union occupied the city, they didn't want any Confederate sympathizers anywhere near downtown. So they sent a raiding party to his house. And he tried to escape, went to his bedroom. They shot through the door and killed Dr. Baker in the bedroom. And here's the weird part. His son came back from the Confederacy and found out his dad was killed by the Union scum, and the city was kind of like the lion's den for Union, very protected. His son Abner decided to come back to avenge his father's death.
Whoa.
He went downtown as a lone Confederate to confront the man that turned his dad in. The man hit him over the head with a cane. He wasn't going to stand for that. He just lost his dad. He pulled out his pocket Derringer and shot him in the head right in the square.
Yikes.
Whoa.
He didn't last 24 hours in jail. He was pulled out by a lynch mob, dragged behind horseback, and hung in multiple locations downtown.
God.
Multiple locations?
Yeah. Well, everything that I see is that it seemed as though that they wanted to make sure that this was not going to happen in in the Union, occupied city like that. To show what not to do. It's like use them as example.
God.
And by the way, he is buried, or at least his headstone is currently in the First Presbyterian graveyard in downtown Knoxville.
Well, and there's a lot of, I've heard some stories too about when the Union Army occupied Knoxville and turned from the Confederacy, like Peter Kern. You know, like Peter Kern was a cobbler that was. They captured him. They told him if he stayed in Knoxville that they wouldn't kill him or whatever. But he started the Peter Kern Bakery, and which is now the Hotel Oliver, which has been renovated a couple different times. But at one point, they told me it housed the Knoxville. The Paranormal Library or whatever. And there were a lot of different things, but supposedly the Hotel Oliver is a hot spot for a ghost. Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote the book Eat, Pray, Love, in an interview, she was staying in Knoxville apparently when she finished that book, and she was doing like a creative writing thing at UT and staying in this hotel writing at night. And she said, "Oh, I love Knoxville. I love my time there." And I stayed at this cute little hotel, which is the Oliver. This would have been before the Oliver would have been renovated. But she said it was neat. She goes, definitely haunted, especially the elevator. Because every time I would come home from UT, I would rush up to the room and lock myself in there to finish writing the book because I just didn't. There was too much ghost activity, and it was,
That's fascinating. The interesting thing is actually the Oliver Hotel is not one of my ground zeros.
Really,
it isn't, because to be a ground zero, I have to have actual information that was publicized in the past, and X marks the spot where something happened.
Right.
The Oliver Hotel was a bakery.
Yeah, soda fountain.
And that's pretty much all I got with that. Now, it is in the heart of Market Square, right on the corner, literally right on the square, where the Market House was.
The Market House, yeah, burned down.
During the Civil War, the Market House, the center area portion where all the fresh meat and poultry and vegetables, all that kind of stuff was for sale. It's kind of like a, kind of grocery store kind of thing back in the day. During the Civil War, that was used for munitions.
Far out. I didn't know that.
They were guarding the munitions at that location. So when I talked to my participants, I'm like, by the way, I'm not saying it is or not, but there's potential that soldiers could be still guarding it today because they took their job very seriously.
Unfinished business.
Yeah. Unfinished business.
Dang. Wow, this is awesome. Well, man, dude, let's move forward a little bit. Tell us about this. I think this is one of the coolest things. I've been waiting to talk about this since I talked to you on the phone, man. I think it's so cool. The Girl Scout badge. Give us a little bit of story on that.
Well, the Girl Scout badge is fascinating because I love working with children. I'm also a musician. I was talking to you guys earlier about that. And I've been teaching. I actually had a performance violin school when I was younger down in Florida. My kids performed at Disney 2 years straight and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
So I love working with children. I was like, how great especially with what the grandparent told me, how basically, that took the fear out of paranormal basically for that child. I was like, how great would it be is if I could kind of bring the ghostly aspect to the surface and kind of approach it in an angle that wasn't so scary. That kind of like saying, look, you can learn about history, and history just might say hi. Instead of history's going to come out and scare the hell out of you and scratch you and push you down the stairs,
right.
History's just going to come out and say hi. So I just started thinking, what could they potentially learn on my events? I'm like, well, I would teach them history. I'd teach them the science about debunking and how to substantiate claims, and then also team building. So basically, our patch actually has at the bottom of it the three things, and I actually say it to the girls. I say, so what are the three things that you are going to be showing and proving yourself tonight to earn this badge? And they're like, science, history, and teamwork. And that's basically it. And I can tell you, history when I was a kid was boring as all get out. I mean, I had more drool on my desktop during those classes, but I'm finding that these kids are interested and fascinated because it's kind of coming alive for them through all this. It's like we don't want to hear all the happy and all this kind of stuff. We want to hear some of the crazy things that happened in the past, some of the things that aren't very nice that happened. It's our true history, Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, I remember some friends of mine a long time ago that were in a band, and they made a record, and they named the record Hell's Half Acre. And it was named after a Civil War battleground that's apparently somewhere near here, kind of. But there's a lot of stories about things that are kind of attached to the Civil War, I feel like, where there's paranormal activity, and like supposedly all these soldiers were killed there. And like, I think you're right. Like when it kind of comes alive for you, history has a whole different aspect. I was really bored in history too back in school. And then like now, but to hear you talk about it and like, what if there are still soldiers guarding this thing that burned out? That's great.
Yeah.
That's
and
so cool.
And they're not out here to hurt you. Yeah. So this is the craziest part. This is part, and this is important for people to understand about paranormal investigation. When you watch the TV shows, you see all the scary aspect of paranormal, and it's because crazy things and spooky things sell.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is when you're investigating, it's all depending on how you behave. You know, some of these places that could be really haunted and there's a demon there and all this, could it be that the negative thing is there because that's what people are focused on? Their behaviors are antagonizing and all this, when basically you're just agitating the spirits there versus trying to befriend and be respectful. This is a crazy thing people don't think about. Downtown Knoxville is an old city. That's what I fell in love with. It dates back to 1793, I believe. So, you know, wow, crazy old city. And if you were to talk great-grandma and ask great-grandma to do something back in the day, if you didn't say the word please or thank you, you were literally disrespecting her.
Okay.
So how many people on the TV shows do you hear say please and thank you while they're investigating these old places?
The one I watch, they don't do that at all. They just say,
Would that be Ghost Adventures, Casey?
I'm going to fight you. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's going to bring
Well,
negativity.
it's like you said, because they're fucking selling something. You know, there's always like a. And I think you have such a cool. I mean, I dig that. I dig everything you just said. Like, that's such a cool aspect to look at it. It's like it doesn't have to be this creepy thing, and you know, like it could be. It's how you approach it
With respect.
with
Yeah.
respect, and there could be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you could learn a lot from it. Like that opens it wide up, and it doesn't. It's not just what goes bump in the night.
I've seen on my investigations how when you understand the psychology, because if you believe in spirits, they were once alive just like us. So they're people basically, just without the physical body. So if you put psychology into paranormal investigation and you can understand how to get, even when utilizing some of my devices, I have a particular step process to break down the barrier. Because back in the day, if you were to confront me downtown and you weren't going to say, hi, I am, and you are, if you wouldn't ask me my name, you wouldn't have even had a conversation with me back in the 1800s.
I get it.
So literally on our devices, I'm educating them that you need to say, you know, like for example, Spirit Box. This is my protocol. I introduce myself, I let them know what they can do with the device, and then ask very politely their name. This is what I say. Hi, I'm Jay. If a spirit's here, you can talk through this device. May I please have your name? Thank you. And then I go into my questions. What I just did is I broke down every possible wall that spirit would have against me. I was very approachable, very positive energy. I introduced myself. I let them know that what they can do, that I really wanted to talk to them, and I was respectful to them. And boom, you get activity with that.
Dude, you are the guy. You are the guy for this, man. Like I think you've got it figured out, dude.
You've already signed up, Casey, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you guys weren't looking. I did pull out my phone.
He's been begging.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a few places even outside of Tennessee that I've wanted to go see for the longest time. Even back in high school, I've always wanted to go to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium up in Kentucky and check that place out. Of course, the longer I wait, the more dilapidated and inaccessible it becomes.
Well, and you hear about like Charleston, you hear about Bobby Mackey. What are some other places that you know of in the U.S.?
Well, you just shared someone. You know, Waverly Hills, Bobby Mackey. These are ones that people are always asking me. It's like, have you investigated those locations? And the truth is really I got my start with investigating for helping people versus going to these tourist attractions,
right.
these locations. And then once I get myself rooted here in Knoxville, the truth is I don't want to leave Knoxville. What I'm doing is I'm continually opening up Knoxville because of all the trauma that we've had in the city, and just, you know, do that. So really, this is where I'm at. But I'll tell you about Waverly Hills. Waverly Hills was a sanatorium. It was filled with people who went nuts. And many of those people we believe to be very haunted. So understand this. You go and investigate into Waverly Hills without experience at a location where the spirits were so good that they made someone go insane. I really highly question people who end up going out there without experience and going out there saying, I just want to get pushed, I just want to get thing. And they're just being naive. They're going out there without any experience, just wanting to have a haunted encounter. And then you're just like, so how has this year been after, you know, Waverly Hills? Oh, not a very good year. Da, da, da. It's like, you think you may have brought something home with you?
See, that is the primary reason I keep turning you down. I'm fascinated by it and would love to go with you, but I don't want to bring anything
Follow-up
with
question.
me. So,
Hey, Jay, you want to go to the Waverly Hills Sanatorium?
And you know my answer? I have no problem. Why? Because I'm a professional investigator. I have no fear. Fear is the smell that the spirits go after. They want you scared. It's perfect. It's just like a bully. If a bully recognizes that you're scared, they're going to come after you. On top of that, I investigate with faith. So it doesn't matter what my faith is, as long as you have some form of faith. Whether you're a Native American, you pray and connect to Mother Earth, or you are a Christian, you pray to God, or whatever tradition. I'm protected by a light. So I always, if darkness comes around, I'm just like, you ain't going to get me, and you're going to be in trouble very soon, because I'm going to call in, invoke basically the higher power to help assist me. And I think that's important for investigators to understand. I'm not trying to be preaching or anything like that, but there's different ways that you can protect yourself. So you can protect yourself with charms. You can protect yourself with crystals. You can protect yourself with your faith. Yeah. I mean, ultimately, totally. I mean, there's different ways, but you need to have some form of protection if you're going into a location that is pretty dark.
And I'm not going to get into why, but I agree with you 100%. I 1,000,000% agree with you. And I kind of want to, for the listeners, I'd like to maybe make a point about that too. If you're looking at maybe doing some ghost hunting, you're doing some paranormal investigation, and hopefully you want to do the historical aspect of it, like Jay was talking about, and really, I would refer you to him. But as opposed to just wanting a good scare to go somewhere like that, there could be a risk in this. And like you said, what if you were to bring something back? I'd just like to advise everybody to be careful, both physically and maybe metaphysically too. If you're going into like creepy old places and you're creeping around, you could get hurt. Be safe if you're going to do something. And then also on the side of like what you might evoke, what you might bring back, like think about that stuff ahead. Like I said, I would recommend a professional like Jay. I would go to him, go to like Knox Ghost Tours, and I would let him kind of like ease you into it. You might actually learn something instead of just spending a terrible night in a creepy old building,
Our friend Eric Stam of the podcast, in an unusually concise way, actually drew the line between those two types of things as being, do you want to observe, which I'm fine with, or do you want to provoke, which is not what I'm saying you do, but that's where the danger comes in, is what you guys are saying when...
I don't want to provoke, I just want to interact.
See, I mean, for me...
Is that the same thing? Provoke?
I don't see a problem with being interested. Yeah. But if you go into a job without knowing what truly is involved in the job, you can get surprised, right? One of the areas with paranormal investigations that people don't think about is not so much do I get scratched, do I get possessed. It's the mild things. Spirits like to mess with our brains. And if you go and investigate under an influence of alcohol or drugs or this or that, you're basically weakening your energy around your body. You're weakening your aura, okay? Which basically means you have no lock on your door. And how many people go into these places like, oh, I'm going to go in there, and they're trashed and all this. Yep. And then their minds just goes on them. They start having issues. And that's where I find. So psyche-wise is really where the spirits can be most dangerous. Where I got invested, when I started, I bought a 1923 house down in Florida, and I didn't believe in ghosts until I bought this home. And then it just took a few months, and finally things were happening. And found out that the house was used as a nursing home. They didn't disclose that when I bought the house, but major things were happening: voices inside, animals going crazy, barking at walls, cold spots, all this kind of stuff. But this is the weirdest part. I had a weird heart arrhythmia when I was living in that building, in that house. I even went to the doctor. They did a 3-dimensional of my heart, and were showing the actual just skips of my hearts and stuff like that. But they couldn't explain what it is. Oh, people just go their whole lives with arrhythmia. I have not had that issue since I left there. Mm. So if spirits are energy, and we're energy as well, could, just like if someone put the paddles on you, the shock paddles and stuff, it will affect our physical body by having the shock. So can energy affect us? Yeah, energy can affect our brains. Our energy can affect our bodies, and all this. And I'm truly, I feel like that is proven in relations to my heart. I had an issue in a location, but it could also be because I was highly sensitive. I am a sensitive. I got some mediumship abilities. I don't really use them per se. I just use them as hunches, and my hunches are pretty good in investigations. So it's kind of like, I'm not saying believe me, but why don't you go into the master, and I sense 2 things in there. Why don't you bring up that, and then boom, they get some activity just with that. But the most important thing, and I'm really happy you said this, is if you're going to investigate, don't be afraid of it, but be aware of it. Be aware of where you're going. The dangers that can. So basically I say this, there's nothing to be afraid in paranormal until there's something to be afraid in paranormal. Mm. So the most important thing is if you're investigating a location and you feel like, ooh, I don't like the way it feels in here, I feel the dread and all this, leave.
Yeah.
That's it. You're not a chicken. Just leave.
Yeah, that sixth sense.
Your
is there for a
body is
reason.
telling you something is dark here and it's heavy enough to affect you. I would probably leave at that point.
Sure.
And-
Just like
and-
if you were in the ocean and something huge touched your foot, get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
It touched me. I'm not gonna go for a second touch when it actually bites my toe off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No thanks. No thank you.
you know what they say about following gut feelings? Like sometimes that's the best thing you can do, you know? Well, okay. Well, man, moving forward, you had also, you said something that you were preparing like an activity where you were going to do camping, like haunted camping thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Again, it's just thinking outside the box as much as possible. Well, how can I create something completely unique? And I think for any business, you're going to want to just find ways to create a different experience. And I'm like, I love camping. I'm sure a lot of people love camping as well. And I'm like, could any of these forests or these camping areas be haunted? Could there be any reasons for these places to be haunted? And I find coincidence happens quite often in my life. Kind of led down a certain path, and I went to a park, and it's like really cool. I'm like, man, this would be a great place for an event. And then found out it had some historical history to it that if you went down this path, you might find the ruins of this area or this area and all this. I'm like, I bet I could create an event that could do that. That could make it, multiple days, and each day you go out to a different area. So you have hiking now. You got exercise involved with paranormal. And then, of course, I'm going to be designing tools that's going to be effective for investigations, for an outdoor investigation. And that's going to be something in 2019 that we're going to be disclosing as actual tools that would be useful for doing an investigation, in the woods and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's odd. Boy, that sounds like a winner to me, man, because people do love camping and hiking, and especially here, I think in East Tennessee, there's such a wonderful outdoor aspect here. And if you combine that with like how haunted the place is, and oh my God, man, that's a slam dunk.
And also the first ever.
Yeah, there you go.
So it's like, yes, we have that, but also we're at the first time investigating the train station. We're at the first time investigating the $1 Million Fire. We're the first one to go to this particular park and create a investigation and event going to areas that has historical trauma. Whoa, that's cool. It's like, if you want first us, I'm the one to come and hang out with. If you want to do things that everyone's done, you can look around. They have plenty of things around the country to do. But if you want something unique, special, one of a kind, that's what I like to do.
Are you allowed to disclose what the park is? Or
I am not going to disclose that yet, too.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to keep a few things quiet. I love to share, but I'm also wanting to make sure that we have a running start when we start.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's your
Absolutely.
endeavor, for sure.
Yep. I mean, I had a question for you. Have you encountered any evidence of hauntings by things that other than humans? Like, has a pet or an animal ever haunted a place? Or even, I've heard stories about like a place being haunted by a train, or things like that. Is any of that stuff real?
The truth is, there's so many layers of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't believe in ufology. It's the universe is too vast, and there's too many special encounters that people have shared, and even people who are high ranking with the military and things that have basically saying, look, I have nothing to lose. I'm on my deathbed, and I'm going to share what I was told and what I saw and all this kind of stuff, because they're really not afraid of the threats of losing the family and all this. So we're hearing these things, and you can't help but say, there's got to be some legitimacy through that. But even with paranormal investigation, I've heard many people saying that my animal passed away and I keep feeling a brushing on the lower part of my leg or things like that. So I definitely do believe that animals are energy just like we are. So, why wouldn't one do it? But the question is this: if you are haunted by a loved one, if they're hanging around, the question I need to ask you is, what haven't you released and what have they not released? So here's the great thing. If your loved one is still here and hasn't moved on, they have an opportunity with you being alive to help them cross. So if you can't let them go out of your life, why are you doing that to them? Or if they're having issues, talk to grandma, whether you're psychic or not. Just, what's up with grandma or grandpa. You just say, I release you with this. You can move on. You don't have to worry about me and all this. And you basically let them know. Because a lot of times these spirits have unfinished business. Like, oh, my daughter's not going to make it without me. And if I die before her, she's not going to be able to do it. So sometimes the unfinished business is basically feeling like my family can't make it without me. And you have to have faith to be able to move on and say, look, it's not about me taking care of my family. It's about the higher power or your faith that they're going to be fine. You obviously have no faith if you feel as though you have to stay behind to help your family.
Absolutely. Oh, that's huge, man. I think that speaks to the issue of closure and all. I think that. Thank you for saying that. Dude. I think that was so rad.
And people ask me all the time. They're like, "How could you investigate? You're a minister and all this, and a light worker, and all that." And I'm like, understand that I can't change the aspect of the unfinished business with these spirits. I have talked to them. I have let them know that they can move on. But most of the time, they're not willing to release it. They're here because of their own fruition. But I tell people, I said, look, you can always pray for them. So while you're investigating, if we recognize some stuff, send a little prayer out. That's fine. I'm not saying don't do it. It's like, you're ruining business. Do not pray for them. I don't want them to leave.
Yeah, totally.
No, I would never say that. So it's not like we're doing a injustice by any means. If anything, these spirits have made a decision to not move on, and it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. Most likely, some of these are really old spirits that don't have any family that can maybe talk them into moving on. So they're just walking around. If anything, we're letting them know that they're still loved and they're still, able to be talked to, and maybe give them something to do. It's got to be boring as hell walking around.
Man, yeah, I would imagine. I've thought about that before. They say that ghosts maybe are in the astral plane, or they're this energy that's kind of trapped, or just like you said, unfinished business. And I think, like, what's that lie? What if that was you, and you were just in this loop, or you were just like the guy guarding the building, or whatever, like,
Yeah.
Or even worse, Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, do you guys have any questions? Come on, I think I can't. I got so many questions.
We haven't talked about the movie yet, which you mentioned at the beginning, and I don't know how much you can talk about it since it's not out yet. But
I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Please,
Let's do it.
It looked really cool on the IMDb page. What little bit I saw, just so take the stage.
Yeah.
Please.
So for those of you who have seen me on TV, I was pulled in onto Travel Channel's Paranormal Paparazzi for a particular episode. The episode was on the Tom Reed case, who had UFO encounters, family, and all that, and really unusual circumstances within his family. His father was killed mysteriously, lots of unusual things related to the case, and he became a good friend of mine. And so he's been working on a book, and he's got all kinds of movies and documentaries out that he's done, but he decided to put his story to a movie. And what's interesting is going on the angle of being related to extraterrestrial. He's actually focusing on it being drama, talking about more of the drama in relation to how his family was dealt with. So it's not so much that we're going to see E.T. and things like that. It's going to be more in relations to how his case was able to become the first case to be inducted into the city's historical society as a real event.
That's awesome.
And what's fascinating about it is, so it's kind of like he's pulling on his friends and stuff. So I get a call from him and the producer, and he's like, I got the perfect role for you. I said, really? You got the perfect role for me? What role you got? And he's like, we want you to be the historical director. I said, so is that a significant role in the movie? He said, yeah, it's a very significant role because, one, you being a historian and all that, what you do, and also the historical director was very important for our case to actually get inducted into the city's history. So it's super, super exciting. So it's kind of like, pulling back, because here years ago we were on Travel Channel's Paranormal Paparazzi together, and he's like, I want you to come in here. So it's kind of like almost like a cameo aspect. It's like,
absolutely.
But yeah,
You're like the awesome Stan Lee of paranormal movies.
Yeah, hopefully I have a little bit longer part than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are kind of brief. Man, I wanted to ask you, did you ever just have any like real, I don't know, like just pleasant spirits that seem to be?
Of course, and I think that's where people misunderstand paranormal, is the idea that it's always a negative haunting. A haunting can be anything above, a location could be haunted because it had so many celebrations, and what's haunting there is just spirits that loved it so much they don't want to move on. I had an interesting communication with a spirit in Market Square when I first started, and it was weird because I was kind of like saying, you can move on, you don't have to stay here, and I was getting, why would I leave? I'm having too much fun. So think about it. Market Square has been developing into this amazingly warm, fun location that's got events and all this. And, it's busier than it's ever been in history. Well, at least in our history. I don't know how it was in the 1800s. I know it was pretty busy back then. But it's just, it's fascinating that some of these spirits might be here because it's actually enjoyable and unpleasant. But typically, though, is if a spirit is decent and warm and loving and all this, it seems almost like they have the opposite of unfinished business. So if you have the opposite of unfinished business, you have nothing that's tying you to this plane. So in general, though, it's like my goal is when I die, I'm not going to have any unfinished business. Guess where I will not be? I'm not going to be here. I have nothing tying me down to this location.
I totally get it.
That is, where do I sign up again?
Well, this is a great opportunity to share, how they can get a hold of me. Yeah, you can go to our website, which is hauntedknoxville.net. You can also go to hauntedexcursions.com. That's a little bit more expanded because we are planning on doing things outside of Knoxville.
Okay.
And then, of course, make sure that you check out our Facebook page. It's so easy to find us. You just put in the top little search panel, Haunted Knoxville Ghost Tours, and you'll see our page. And that's where the video. So this is super cool. The last 6 months, I have decided to just let it all go. Literally. Basically, I've been allowing my participants on our events during the investigation portion of the event to pull out their own phones and their video cameras and videotape so that we can record some of the stuff. It is on our Facebook page. We have some amazing things that you can see. It's like, you don't believe activity happens? Watching these videos. This is not from me. These are from people who decided to join a tour. They pull out their camera, the videotape, and some amazing clips of activity that we've gotten in this town that they say is not haunted.
Amazing.
Now, Spencer here asked you about like the friendliest encounter you've ever had. I want to know, what's the scariest encounter you've ever had? Or is that an okay question to ask? Or is that?
I think so.
Oh, that's a great one. And it's weird is typically the scariest encounter is probably going to be first.
Really?
Yeah, one of your first encounters are going to be the scariest ones. The ones that you're just like, you look back and I was like unprepared. Yeah. It's like when you don't believe in ghosts and you have an experience, and that's a great place to come, by the way. It's like, I did not believe in ghosts, and I bought this 1923 house, and they very well made me a believer.
Yeah.
There was that much activity in there. It wasn't like I was searching for it or calling it in and all that. So I sold my 1923 house because I wasn't going to change the fact that there was an old man that was in that house that was definitely haunting that location. And what made it the most real was this. I was testing out my air mattress in my living room and get ready for a camping trip. I like camping, of course. And I got woken up to a male voice inside my house.
Ooh, nope. Nope.
Hunter's like, well.
I was like, this is way too real. I don't like this. I'm running to my parents' house at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, okay, guys, knock on the door. And they're like, honey, why are you here? And I was like, I don't want to tell you.
Just let me stay here, please.
And they're like, they almost kind of refused to let me in until I told them what I said. And they're like, what happened? What's going on? I think my house is haunted. And this is the weirdest response. Oh, okay, come on. They just opened the door for me. I was like, okay, you need to tell me more. You did not respond the way I thought you would with this. And that's when my parents said, you remember when we lived in New Jersey for that 1 year when you were a kid? And I was like, yeah. Well, we felt like the house was haunted. We didn't want to scare you kids. So it was almost like this opportunity was able to find out something that my parents kind of withhold. Because back in the day, and this is the thing, I need people to understand who's listening to this. Back in the day, back in the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, all this kind of stuff, if you had any experiences that were paranormal, you would not share them because you'd be so afraid that someone was going to check you into a psychiatric ward or judge you. But now, more people are coming out saying, yeah, I had this experience, yeah, I've had this experience, to a point that I feel is like closer to 3 out of 4 people have had some kind of encounter at some point in their life, with it. So it's okay to talk about it. I promise you will not get thrown, into a psychiatric ward for sharing your experience.
Totally.
So that was probably the scariest one because, one, it was very real. It got to a point that I was just like, I can't control this. This is really freaky. Or when I came back from, when I was engaged, and we came back from a trip and got home like at 4:00 in the morning. And we laid down, and it was the weirdest thing because we were in the back room on the first level. We laid in bed, and at the same time, we looked at each other and said, I don't like how it feels in here. And I says, I agree. I don't like how it feels in here either. So something was definitely not, it was very weird. And it was weird because at the same time, we kind of looked at each other laying in bed, and we're like, I don't like the way it feels, you know? And I remember in that back area there one time having an experience almost like something came into me and then left me. So it's like I was walking the back, and I saw the shadow at the corner of my eyes kind of come towards me, and then I started getting numb and sad, and I must have stayed there for a couple minutes, and then it left me, and I saw a shadow go away, and I was like, whoa, whatever was here, I think literally came in to me and then left me.
Wow.
You know, and I can't help but think that was basically what we were experiencing when we came back and we're laying in bed together. You know, there was like something was definitely in that room with us at that point.
Scary.
Yeah.
Scary. Because you think about like maybe seeing a ghost, like you said, in the corner, like a cold spot or a dark spot or just a general feeling. But then like the idea that it like gets in you for a minute and goes away, that's creepy.
But again, what's fascinating is the part that really, first thing I had to make a decision. Do I go left or right? I'm at a fork of the road. I'm having some serious issues in my house. I don't know what to do. I could, you know, run for the hills, or I could learn everything I could about it. And I decided at that point to actually get certified as an investigator. They had an online training thing going through, and it gave me a good basis. People are like, oh, online's aren't anything special. Understand they are what they are. It's nice that they have them. And I was able to at least get a nice full synopsis of what is investigation about, how to do it professionally, how to recognize and all that kind of stuff. And what's great is this. If ghosts are so scary, then why does it take sage, a little plant, to burn and you can remove them?
Far out.
It's just a little dried
Why do you think that is?
bush.
What do you feel like is the significance of sage? Like,
I'm an honorary shaman with the Cherokee Chickamauga Wolf Clan. Mm-hmm. So I've always had a strong connection with Mother Earth and Native American. And basically the way I look at it is I believe that we're all given gifts while we're here treading on this world that can help us. So it's whether we're open to receiving these gifts, open to recognizing these things. All I know is 100% that these different things, whether it's crystals, I felt significant improvement holding crystals and utilizing crystals. Crosses, different kinds of religious items, those can give protection. What is it? Well, it's your faith behind that cross is what ends up making that cross strong and gives a protection field. It's your faith in this crystal. That crystal, interestingly enough, can retain energy. We know that. That's proven. So if you got two different types of energy, light energy and dark energy, well, light energy is going to be in the crystal. So yeah, if I hold this crystal and it's charged, if I'm open to it, that energy could help me. It could actually raise my energy. It could raise my spirit. It could make me feel better.
dang.
You know, so there's this, I personally believe that we're given a lot of amazing gifts in this life, and it's our decision just to be open-minded enough to try and use them. And mine was, wow, my question was, what is truth? Could truth be something that shows up all around the world? So sage is used all over the world for pretty much the same thing. It removes dark energy, removes negative spirits, it removes this, that. Basically, we have continents that never touch each other, yet they're using the same plant, dried, to do the same basic thing. So there's a truth there, you know? So I'm just about learning truth.
That's awesome. So would you say, like, let's say somebody, which I can't really imagine anybody that's listening to this that doesn't have access to the internet or Knoxville or something like, but let's say for some reason somebody's having a problem and maybe they feel like there's a spirit or they're just whatever. You would recommend maybe they go get some sage and like figure out how to do that.
And this is the thing, it's just like the past. We have to trial and error it. We have to figure out what exactly does it do, you know? Sometimes we're taught what it does, and sometimes we have to figure out for ourselves what does it do. And I got to put sage to the test. I was like, I was having to stay in a place that was constantly had a dark energy there.
Yeah.
I burned sage, yet 45 minutes later, I felt dark again. I felt a temporary fix. I'm like, okay, well, So obviously sage isn't long term.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at sage as being kind of like a bug bomb.
Okay, I get it.
It doesn't remove the bugs permanently. It just kind of clears out the area, but then they can come back if there's cracks in the wall.
Wow,
So what would you do if you're using sage? Clear your area, then add additional elements, which you can learn from working with me. I do spirit combat, I do home gridding, home protection, teach you how to actually.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you heard it there, folks. Get in
You're
touch with
just
Jay.
like the jack of all trades for paranormal.
Oh, if you guys were here, you'd see my cheeks going red.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I've never talked to anybody that knows as much about this stuff as you, and I mean, you have a fantastic reputation. Sadly, we're getting near the end of our time here. I mean, we could go on for hours.
Aww.
We would love to have. Will you come back and talk to us again? Will you come hang out again?
That'd be great.
I would be honored to come back and talk to you guys. You guys are cool.
We would love for you to be a Beacon House regular. Like, you're such a great guy. Guys, you have anything else for Jay while we've got him here?
I would also love at any point we learn how to record on the fly to actually go to location with you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, your listeners who are your dedicated listeners, I promise one thing is once you guys get the ability to do that, I'll make sure that I give you guys the opportunity to do some live remote stuff on my events.
There we
Yes.
go.
I'm in, buddy. I'll do it.
Are you in?
I'm
And I'm
Well,
in too.
after finding out I do it the safe way, now you're in.
Yeah. Hey,
We're
of course.
totally in.
He's
We're
not going
totally
to poke
in.
the bear. We're good. It's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's definitely wrap up by letting everybody know how they have access to you. I'm assuming October is a very busy time for you, but what is your schedule like for the ghost tours, and how can people go and sign up for one?
Well, hauntedknoxville.net is how you're going to do. We end up reserving our tickets right online. It makes it easy for us. By doing that, it allows us to be affordable on our ticket prices.
Okay.
So it only takes about 40 seconds to be able to go in and reserve. You can see our calendar. Our calendar has all kinds of stuff. So one thing that is special about my tour is that you have many opportunities to interact with history and learn about Knoxville. So, you do one tour. We have another tour. We have multiple tours. So we had our walking tour, which is our flagship, which is a $40 ticket on sale for $30 right now. We got $10 off on all of our events celebrating our 8th year in business.
Amazing.
And then we have the next step up, which is a Nightmare on the Tracks, which is a little over 3 hours, and we have full access to the building. And of course, you guys get to use the equipment and go through a ghost hunting 101 with me and get to work with me. And then, of course, our newest one, which is the highest one, which is the Maple Hall investigation, the Great Fire investigation, which goes from 10 p.m. till 3 a.m. And what's neat about that one is the location's never been investigated, obviously, before. Maple Hall tends to add a few extra fun things to the ticket. I can't say what it is because it'll change. The first one, they actually gave an hour free bowling and also refreshments and snacks. And here's what's neat. While we're investigating, the general manager was in his office watching all the night vision cameras and letting us know through the walkie-talkie, by the way, lanes 1 and 2, I see orbs going over your head. So while we're using these tools, we also have an eye in the sky letting us know if there are any visual stuff going on in this room.
My
That's
God.
It was
So
it
awesome.
was so cool. Literally, I went up there and I did a live podcast, a live Facebook feed. Yeah, live Facebook feed. And it's actually on the Facebook page, by the way, so you guys can watch it. So I was in there, and Ryan, the GM, says, "Oh, we caught something. You got to check it out." So I actually showed the screen on my feed, and it showed an orb go out, do a U, come back at the camera, and split into two.
It can't be a bug.
It can't be a bug. And then we kind of laughed about it. It's like, so Ryan, how well have you scored? And he's like, we have perfect scores. Thank you very much. There is no bugs anywhere around here. And I'm like, you heard it. There are no bugs that cannot have been a bug. And I don't think any dust would split into two like that. It was definitely an unusual movement. Typically a dust will go in a particular direction, but it won't change directions, especially like that. So, you got to be skeptical on photographic phenomenon. But that was definitely a cool night there.
Dude.
That's awesome.
Get out there and sign up for this stuff. What are you guys, crazy? Come on, you heard it here first. Go sign up for these tours. Oh my God, man! Like I can't tell you how cool it is to talk to Jay. And you guys get out there and do it. Maybe we'll see you on one of them if our stupid schedules all
That'd be
line
great.
up. Even if we
A
can't
meet
record it,
and greet.
we've got to go on one anyway.
Forget you guys. I'm going on the weekend.
All right. Well, you're going to see Casey out there. Maybe
Scope
one of
it
you
out.
guys will have a chance to investigate Casey.
I'll have camera. I'll have everything just strapped to my body and just going ghost hunting.
You'll be like a tourist.
Well, I do have a GoPro, similar to a GoPro with a bunch of body straps. So if you want to if you want to be my Aaron and throw you into the holes,
At any point, going on an investigation with you, if there's a spot where you're like, I just want one person to sit in this room by themselves for like 30 minutes, I will do it. I will gladly do it. I'll ask all the questions.
That sounds boring.
I'll gladly let you know.
And that's what's funny is I say this on my tours all the time. Like, by the way, ghost hunting can be really boring. If you've ever done it before, you can be sitting in a room for an hour talking at a wall in the dark. It's boring. My tours are all moving. We don't stay in one area. We get more activity within a short amount of time than anyone else.
Yeah.
So
there you go, man. Sign up and do it. Jay, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah,
what a
Thank
great
you so
guy.
much.
And guys, this is just the beginning. We're going to have more stuff coming forward in October. And do us a favor, man. Casey's going to tell you about social media where you can find us. But, man, tell us in the comments. Leave us, send us a message. Let us know if you have a ghost story. If you have something that you want to share that stuff with us, man. Like you said, Jay, I think Jay's made it really clear that this doesn't have to be scary, archaic, bad, dark. Like, there could be, like, a total positivity to this. And there's a lot of history to it, which that's the part I'm super interested. I'd love to learn more about Knoxville and its history and some of the things that have happened here. And super cool. So Casey, why don't you tell them where they can find us, man?
They can find us on Twitter at Beacon House Knox, Instagram at Beacon House Knox. Send us some emails at Gmail. It's beaconhouseknox@gmail.com. And Facebook at the Beacon House Podcast, and on YouTube at the Beacon House Podcast.
And you guys go check out J-Adam Smith over at hauntedknoxville.net, okay?
Please.
Absolutely.
Guys, this is Spence.
Casey.
Hunter.
We'll see you guys next time.
Oh, my.